from the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
In the coming days, the U.S. Senate will vote on a bill to repeal Obamacare without replacement. What message these activists are bringing to Senator Flake's office.
And Republicans are pushing for a series of bills that could affect thousands of endangered species. We tell you why one Arizona representative is against the measures.
Plus, it's important that kids know how to swim, but not everyone can afford lessons. How a national foundation is making sure kids in the valley can head to the pool and stay safe.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Felisa Gardenas.
And I'm Madison Connor. Thank you for joining us. Today, different groups of activists hit the streets in Phoenix once again to tell Senator Jeff Flake to vote no on repealing Obamacare. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Fingert is in the broadcast center and tells us what they had to say.
The coalition of groups from organizations like Planned Parenthood, AARP, and Lucha Arizona plan to spend the day outside Senator Flake's office. While I was there, it was a lot quieter than some other groups we've covered, but the message was the same. They want him and Congress to vote no on repealing Obamacare. One woman told me her daughter has had several open heart surgeries, and Obamacare has given her the coverage she needs. For another, without insurance from the Affordable Care Act, she would have no coverage.
There's no way that if the Affordable Care Act is repealed and lifetime caps come back into play or pre-existing conditions, that she will be able to have the lifetime of care that she needs.
I basically rely on this. If they were to cut the funds of Medicaid, it would affect me. I would be left without insurance.
Small groups of activists were allowed into Senator Flake's office, a few at a time, where they got to speak to staffers. The overall theme today, the Affordable Care Act is beneficial and it needs to stay. But at this point, it's anyone's guess whether that will happen. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell vowing a vote next week on repealing Obamacare, even if he doesn't have the votes to pass it. We reached out to Senator Flake's team about the activists today, but we didn't hear back in time for air. In the broadcast center, Tyler Fingert, Cronkite News.
A new report shows 32 million will be uninsured by 2026. Both health bills could jeopardize coverage for close to 400,000 Arizonans. The nonpartisan Center on Budget and Policy Priorities found the bills put the Arizona Healthcare Cost Containment System, or ACCESS, at risk by ending the ACA's Medicaid expansion. The report also raises concerns about the Medicaid match rate. Under the Senate bill, the amount the federal government would pay into the program's dropped starting in 2018. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, by 2024, the state's added cost would rise to $773 million. The author of the study looked at more than 24 sources in creating the report.
The Democratic candidate who could potentially run against Jeff Flake, Deidre Aboud, received online threats for her Muslim faith. The attacks target her Facebook campaign video that has over 3 million views. Flake tweeted last night supporting Aboud and encouraging her to, quote, hang in there. Aboud answered Flake's tweet and thanked him for his support and leadership. So far, she's the only Democratic candidate running for the 2018 primaries and is the first statewide Muslim candidate in Arizona.
A report was released by Citizens Against Government Waste today, exposing what they consider pork spending by Congress. Reporter Emma Lockhart was at the press conference earlier today and has more on the findings of the report.
It's called The Pig Book. It's an annual report that its authors hope will make Washington squeal over what they see as wasteful spending. But it was the watchdog group that was squealing today when the release of this new report shows that congressional earmarks, also known as pork barrel spending, are continuing to go up.
The 2017 Congressional Pig Book was released today. Its contents, a list of pork projects Citizens Against Government Waste thinks are unnecessary. Senator Jeff Flake, a longtime supporter of the Pig Book, was at the event.
This is important work that's done here with the Pig Book, and I encourage you all to read it and make sure that we legislators are kept honest in this regard.
Flake and the group hopes to permanently ban earmarks in Congress.
An earmark is a project that goes into the appropriations bills without hearings, without competition, without authorization.
Despite that ban in the Senate, the report says the cost of earmarks in the 2017 fiscal year is up 33% from 2016.
Pork barrel spending is alive and well in the nation's capital.
Although there was a brief interruption by an unknown protester.
I have a question for Senator Flake. Senator Flake, why are you cutting green jobs in the state of Arizona and instead giving $5 billion to fossil fuels?
Flake got his message across.
We have a ban on earmarks now. We ought to stick to it.
And everyone got photos with the event's most popular attendee, Faye the Pig.
The protester was immediately taken out of the event. We reached out to Capitol Police and Senator Flake's office to try and find out who he was, but we have not heard anything back yet. Live in Washington, Emma Lockhart, Cronkite News.
Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva was among those who spoke out today against 5 bills that would each change the Endangered Species Act in their own way. Cronkite News reporter Noelle Lilly got both sides of the debate today in Washington.
Republicans and Democrats alike agreed today on the importance of protecting endangered species. What they didn't agree on, however, was how best to do that. Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva said the 5 bills discussed at the House Committee on Natural Resources would hurt endangered species.
I have to say clearly the Endangered Species Act works because it does not need the political interference to make it work any better.
An official with the Defenders of Wildlife, who called Grijalva a champion of endangered species, said the act is especially important for Arizona.
Because Arizona has quite a few species on the brink of extinction. The Endangered Species Act works. It's very flexible, and it's done a fabulous job of bringing species back from the brink of extinction.
But the Republicans who are pushing for these bills say the act doesn't work as well as supporters claim, like Texas Congressman Pete Olson, who wrote H.R. 717 that would require the cost to be considered before adding a species to the endangered list.
I do not want to see species go extinct, but I want to achieve a balance that gives our wildlife the protection they deserve in a way that protects local communities too.
Other witnesses also said the Endangered Species Act hurts local economies.
There is a link between environmental protection and economic success. As written, the ESA has very little space for economic consideration.
Yet environmentalists still argue that the pros of the act outweigh the cons.
Grizzly bears and gray wolves have returned to the western plains. Black-footed ferrets, once declared extinct, now thrive in the short grass prairie. All of this because of the Endangered Species Act.
In Washington, Noelle Lilly, Cronkite News.
The 5 bills were introduced earlier this year, but have yet to be held for a vote.
Former Arizona school chief Tom Horn testified yesterday in a federal trial in Tucson over a state law that bans ethnic studies. The trial will decide whether the decision was made with discriminatory intent, but Horn said the law targets all ethnic study programs, not just the Mexican-American ethnic studies.
In the summer heat, many people look at swimming as a way to cool down, especially kids.
But a new report shows kids from low-income families are less likely to know how to swim. Coming up on Cronkite News, we tell you how these kids can now dive in to free swimming lessons.
Plus, we tell you how LeBron James is building his legacy outside the basketball court.
I finally found my hallelujah. I've been waiting for this moment all my life now. All my dreams are coming true, yeah. I've been waiting for this moment. It's good to be alive right about now. Right about now.
Officially from 36, and he hooks it in.
strong. Do you believe
it? I was at the post office mailing something. I asked the clerk, how do they let you know if your son is wounded? It was very hard for me to form those words, but I just felt, I've got to know. I just felt so suspended in space and anxiety. And the man said, now, don't worry. They'll tell you.
The USA Swimming Foundation released a study that says there's an increase in swimming ability among children, but numbers are still low.
Cronkite News reporter Holly Bernstein went to a USA Swimming Foundation pool partner here in Phoenix to find out what they are doing to help.
Hubbard Family Swim School is a privately owned local pool partner that has 3 locations across the valley. They are among swim schools providing financial help to increase swimming ability in children.
She loves to splash, and she just has a great time with all the other kids.
Megan Williams and her 1-year-old daughter Maddie are regular attendees at the Hubbard Family Swim School. The swim school is partnered with the USA Swimming Foundation, which releases a new study every 7 years.
The USA Swimming Foundation announced a 5 to 10% increase in swimming ability among children, but there's still a lot of work to do in order to save lives in the water.
According to the 2017 study, nationally, 79% of children in families with household income less than $50,000 have no or low swimming ability. The USA Swimming Foundation aims to provide 1 million free and cost-reduced swimming lessons to kids around the nation, all while teaching the importance of swimming lessons. Locally, the Hubbard Family Swim School partners with the USA Swimming Foundation to provide scholarships. Owner Bob Hubbard says more than 125 kids at their school are on some form of scholarship right now.
Every once in a while, if a child comes in here to our swim schools and needs scholarship help, we're always willing to do that as much as we can.
In their latest report, the Arizona Department of Health Services says drowning is the leading cause of death among Arizona preschoolers. 99 deaths were reported among children aged 1 through 4 years old from 2010 to 2015. While Williams does not receive a scholarship, as a mom, she says it's important for kids to learn how to swim, especially here in Arizona.
In particular, just with the drownings and issues that we have here, but just to get them as comfortable with the water as soon as possible is really important for kids.
The study also found other factors that contribute to the lack of swimming ability, including a child's fear of water and whether or not their parents know how to swim. Holly Bernstein, Cronkite News.
The NBA has dominated the sports headlines in July with players leaving their teams for better deals. But it was just 7 years ago when LeBron James made the decision that forever changed the NBA.
Less known about that announcement is how children were impacted. Cronkite News Los Angeles reporter Andrea Boyd explains.
While initially LeBron James' choice to leave Cleveland for Miami was hailed as the ultimate in player self-absorption, the broadcast rights to The Decision, all $3 million of it, was donated to boys and girls clubs.
Here, Santa Monica was ground zero, the first facility to receive proceeds from James' big announcement.
Once we got the money donated, they put into repaving the concrete outside, the baskets, the portable baskets, the adjustable heights, the pads for the baskets, the safety things like that, to basically repolish, redo our play field.
Since then, the space has been nicknamed the Super Playfield, serving as a sports multiplex. And if it's ever a question to whether or not the kids know who gifted their club.
Oh yeah, they know who LeBron is. A lot of our kids here at the club think LeBron is the best in the world.
He's the best basketball player alive right now, so yeah.
The kids that are still playing here from when they're 6 to now they're now that they're 13 and 14, they really appreciate that court.
Not only is education important, but physical education is just as important, and the fact that somebody was able to provide an outdoor space for us is like a great opportunity, and not everybody has that in this school that we are one of the people who does have it.
Not only is the donation recognized by the kids, but it is remembered and cherished by those who were watching on the day of LeBron's decision.
I remember sitting at home watching LeBron and sitting there waiting to see what decision he was going to make. But then hearing about, oh, Boys and Girls Club of America and how all the money is basically gonna go to Boys and Girls Club of America, I thought, man, that's awesome. Like, and I'm a part of that because I work for the Boys and Girls Club.
While this offseason has seen the likes of Gordon Hayward and Paul George change teams, it could be nothing compared to next summer when LeBron's contract is up and one of the possible destinations is here in Los Angeles. Andrea Boyd, Cronkite News.
The LeBron James Family Foundation aided 60 boys and girls clubs across the country.
And in other NBA news, the Phoenix Suns announced today that former Suns James Jones will be the newest addition to the front office as Vice President for Basketball Operations.
And General Manager Ryan McDonoghue's contract will be extended until 2019. But next on the Suns' agenda, owner Robert Sarver says, is the condition of Talking Stick Resort Arena.
You know, I'm looking at different options here within the Valley. First priority is downtown Phoenix, but if that's not something the city wants to do, then, you know, I got to look somewhere else. And we're getting to that point where we got to start getting something done. So, you know, we're working on it.
Sarver said he's hopeful that construction will begin in the next couple of years, and he's open to doing what is best for the city of Phoenix and for the team. He put in a bid on a piece of land located on McDowell Road, but it says someone beat him to it.
Talking Stick Resort Arena is the smallest arena in the NBA when it comes to square footage. It is also a runner-up for the oldest arena in the league.
And on that note, staying active is good for all of us.
And cardio is a good way to keep your heart rate up. Coming up on Cronkite News, we see how this foundation doesn't just get you running for your health, but for others in need.
The high today was around 100 degrees, but stay tuned later for your 7-day forecast.
Heaven knows you're a dreamer. Don't hide it from anyone. Don't hide it from anyone. Hey, would you believe me if I said we are here for a reason now? This is our life. This is what counts. This is for us. I will go anywhere for you.
Combat is like crack cocaine. It's an enormous high, but it has enormous costs. And I think that we make a big mistake if we say, oh, well, war is hell. We all know the war is hell story. It is, but there's an enormously exhilarating part of it.
The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office dive team joined the search for a 27-year-old man. Hector Miguel Garnica went missing Saturday after a flash flood swept through a swimming hole in the Tonto National Forest. 9 of his family members were killed in the flood. The possibility for more flooding in that area over the past few days has hindered the search. There are about 80 people currently searching along the Verde River, but they will be pulled from the area if weather conditions indicate any further risk. Some are wondering if more should have been done to warn citizens of the storm moving in. Alerts were sent out, but the family may not have had cell reception at the time.
An arrest has been made for the man who started the wildfire in the Dudleyville area earlier this month. That fire burned more than 300 acres, destroying 1 home and 13 other buildings. James Brumley is now in custody on suspicion of reckless burning and 5 counts of criminal damage. He denied starting the fire on July 7th, but arson investigators traced the fire back to Brumley's property, where they found a burn pile still smoldering. The fire spread quickly and the entire town of Dudleyville was evacuated.
Storms have been moving across our state all week long, and again this afternoon we are looking at a chance for some of that monsoon weather.
Blakely McHugh is in our weather center with what we've got in store for the evening. Blakely?
The high today was right around 100 degrees with that humidity level sitting at 47%. Now I'll tell you where that's coming from in just a second. Let's look at the temperatures across the valley at 6 p.m. It'll be 99 in Buckeye, 95 in Casa Grande, and 96 in Scottsdale. Now those temperatures aren't normal for this time. Usually we don't drop out of the triple digits until around 9 or 10 p.m. But temperatures across the state, let's take a look at those. We're at 100 in Lake Havasu, 81 in Tucson, and a cool 76 in Flagstaff. Now let me show you where that humidity is coming from. Here's the storm that is passing through Arizona. Now you can tell it's not really hitting the Phoenix area, but those clouds are causing moisture, which is causing that humidity in the valley. And the storm is affecting, though, northern Arizona. All this whole green area is watches and warnings for flash floods. So if you are in northern Arizona, make sure you're paying attention to the weather. Now onto your 7-day forecast. We're going to be jumping up to 106 on Sunday with a 30% chance of rain and lightning on Monday. Blakely McHugh, Cronkite Weather.
Fighting cancer can be a tough battle,
and many patients rely on emotional support to overcome the disease. Coming up on Cronkite News, we show you how friends and family are supporting prostate cancer patients.
The war by 1966 began to impact the middle class, because the draft calls had to be enlarged. They couldn't get enough people to volunteer or draft people out of the working class. They started drafting people out of college. And that's when the anti-war movement shifted from a moral movement to a self-interest movement.
Fascinating. You know, sometimes I wish I wasn't so beloved.
Can't you see? Little girl got a hold on me like wow. Baby, I'm howling for you.
It's literally one for the history books.
Enjoy.
What are you doing?
Possibilities. Your day is filled with them.
Reach up, energy in the fingertips, collapse. TV, play Downton Abbey.
And PBS helps everyone discover theirs. Anytime, anywhere.
Up in the sky, you can see it.
PBS, we're with you for life.
Prostate cancer is the third leading cause of cancer-related deaths for men in the U.S. However, Cronkite News LA reporter Victor Keys tells us about an organization that's dedicated to battling this dreaded affliction.
Illnesses such as cancer often bring together large groups to fundraise. But for the organization Many vs. Cancer, an affinity for sports draw more troops to the battle against the deadly disease.
The idea is to allow people to group up with other people who are like them. So maybe people who are all runners, people who are all bikers, and just be like mini cyclists, mini runners versus cancer.
Tom Andrus is the Chief Digital Officer at the Prostate Cancer Foundation, but has shifted his focus to a broader landscape with Many vs. Cancer. His own personal story has led him to this point.
My reason for caring about this is in 2010, my late wife got diagnosed with appendix cancer. And at the time, there was no research that we could find. And so she passed away in 2012. And so for me, it's a very personal thing.
The goal is not to just fundraise, but also to inspire. One source of that inspiration is Ramiro Sileazar, who has helped raise over $50,000 by running in several charity events for Many vs. Cancer. But he has no plans of stopping anytime soon.
Every time I'm running, right? Of course, my sister, you know,
My sister, she had cancer. My twin, of course. I'm thinking about her. I'm not running with my legs. I'm running with my heart. Corazón.
Though Many vs. Cancer is in its beginning stages, Andrus wants everyone to know the people involved in this group are in it for the same motives.
It's all about people who are completely dedicated to ending this disease. We're all doing it because we have this reason. And same thing for the scientists and everyone who's got, who put in their life into ending this disease.
In Los Angeles, Victor Keys, Cronkite News.
Many vs. Cancer makes its biggest push in September, which is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we'll take a look at a new way to navigate Arizona courts on the web. And we'll hear about a downtown public art project that doubles as a shade structure. That's on the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, the president's controversial commission on voter fraud and the concerns it sparked over privacy. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.